30 seconds left.
My limited experience with playing around with my VR headset has kind of taught me that it's mostly just good for shooting games, more shooting games, horror games, and then other things. There's never really any kind of big releases with these things, so when any kind of VR game comes along with a modicum of polish and some amount of completion, it's generally worth checking out. Which is what I did when I saw Galgun VR available on Steam, a sort of sequel or VR-inspired update, I guess, to Galgun Double Peace. So in case you're not familiar with the premise of Galgun, allow me to reiterate. In this game, you're a high school student that's stricken with some kind of affliction where all of your female classmates are hopelessly infatuated with you. It's gotten to the point where they shriek like a cat being choked whenever they see you and sing your praises from a distance or knock you on your ass if they're close enough. Somehow this is all damaging to our protagonist, and if he gets too much affection, it's game over Sonny Jim. It's simple and stupid, but it's also easy to pick up, it's colourful, and most importantly, it's harmless. It's just not the type of game you'd really want to be playing if someone walks in on you. It was, for all intents and purposes, just a rail shooter. You aimed with the mouse, and after you took out a particular number of girls, the game would then send you to the next fixed location, and you do the same thing all over again. At the end of each level, you'd usually get bombarded from all directions and have to rotate the screen manually, but aside from that, it was pretty simple stuff. Similarly with Galgun VR, it's carried across most of these mechanics, not really differentiating things all that much, aside from the fact it's now played with a VR headset, and has also been adapted to be played with the touch controllers, which they've used to implement one or two new mechanics. So now on the right hand is the love gun, or whatever it's called, and this is what you're going to be using 90% of the time. In the school there's a couple dozen or so different students, all who are unique visually and have their own weak spots which you should target for an instant knockout, or instant euphoria as it's called in game. Now this can be a bit of a problem depending on where you're placed at times, like certain girls have weak spots around their knees or ankles, I don't know why, and if you're standing in front of furniture or any other solid part of the environment, you obviously can't hit that weak spot and have to spam the attack on another body part as fast as possible. Then in the left hand you've got the Demon Sweeper. Imagine a handheld ghost trap from the Ghostbusters film, the one that didn't suck, and you can understand what this thing is all about. This thing comes in handy because certain girls, for some reason, are possessed by one, if not two or three love demons. Now these have to be first shot off the girl's body, which is simple, however you then need to suck up those pesky demons with your Demon Sweeper, which is going to get rid of them for good at the expense of using up energy for the sweeper itself. More or less energy depending on the demon type you're trying to capture. All up there's 4 types, and the ones that take the longest to suck up obviously earn you more points, though you can also just outright kill them if need be. Demon Sweeper can also be used to stun girls if they're in range or blow up their skirt, because sure, why not? In fact, half the achievements in this game are rewarded for photographing the panties of every girl in the school. Gotta catch them all indeed. Instead of the game being on rails in the traditional sense, it instead allows you to teleport to the next location, which removes that motion sickness element prevalent in a lot of VR games. The other mechanic they've added is how you can quickly swap to a mobile phone in your right hand, which slows time down to a crawl to allow you to take some happy snaps of those smitten teenage girls in all their lustful glory. I mean, it's kind of neat, I guess, though I genuinely don't know what the hell the point of it is, aside from just saving away some kind of collection on your external hard drive, or posting your favourite screenshots on the Steam forums to people who probably don't give a shit. And look, that's really all there is to say about the gameplay in Galgun VR. I mean, it's all explained in the main menu if you somehow forgot how anything works, and you literally only really need to play it for about 60 seconds before you've kind of mastered everything the game can throw at you. Thing is though, there's not really anything wrong with it. I mean, yeah, it's kind of silly and all, but in terms of how everything controls and feels, it feels as good as any other VR shooting game I've played. The shooting is precise and responsive, and you're never fumbling around trying to figure out which button does what. I mean, it's the ironic benefit of a game with such basic and simplistic controls. I didn't even have all that many sensor issues, which is something that plagued me when I was playing through Arizona Sunshine, a game that I'm sure had more time spent on it than this did. Like Double Peace, Galgun VR is super short, in fact even shorter than Double Peace was. All up there's 8 levels in the entire thing, all of which will take no longer than 10 minutes to beat. If you are going to go achievement hunting, I guess you'll get some value out of it, but it is hard to deny that there's really bugger all content where it matters most. I'm 99% sure too that a lot of the environments and character models have just been recycled from Double Peace. You'll see the same familiar looking schoolyards, changing rooms, corridors and gymnasiums. And then they haven't even modelled in the love gun either, which just seems kinda lazy. I think about the only original level in the game is the cave for the final stage, which honestly felt like a horror game because of how goddamn creepy it was, but it lacks any kind of boss fight or even an ending cinematic. In fact, after you finish most levels, you're briefly shown your score based on how many demons you caught and so forth. And I'm not even sure if your accuracy or damage taken factors into this score because quite honestly, we're not even told. Then after that, it just throws you back to the main menu without advancing any kind of plot and just feeling really disconnected. Double Peace at least had some kind of story with different arcs depending on decisions you made during conversations with the NPCs. This version also lacks the upgrades and the collectibles from Double Peace 2. I mean, that game had dozens and dozens of items to unlock and purchase, which at least gave you some kind of reason to keep replaying it. A lot of these quirky Japanese games, Senran Kagura being another good example, kind of thrive on the longevity they get out of being able to offer up so much useless cosmetic crap for the player to spend an in-game currency on. Now, I know they're talking about the gameplay in these kind of games. It's like talking about the plot in a porno movie, and most people are going to be buying it for one simple reason. But even if that is the reason you're thinking of buying it, which is cool, I'm not judging, it's sadly kind of light on that stuff as well. This ain't the best looking VR game I've played either. It runs on the Unreal 4 engine like so many other VR games out there, and performance-wise, it's fine. I had everything scaled up to the maximum, and normally what happens is that when you capture the footage, it always looks crappy, but at least in the headset, it looks half decent. Galgun VR looks kinda crappy when you capture footage, and it still looks kinda crappy when you're looking through the headset. On that note too, I really wish developers would start including more options for scaling visuals in these VR games. I mean, it's been going on for too long now, and about all you get is the option to increase the resolution scale, which honestly, unless I'm going blind, does absolutely jack shit. People who own VR headsets, I think, is a pretty small demographic. Last time I read something about it, they said that less than 10% of people on Steam own one. And then after that, I think the amount of people who'd be interested in a game like this would be even less. What's probably not going to help that is that at the moment, the price is just way too high. At the moment I'm doing this review, I think they're offering it for about 15% off, which is still around $25 US, and considering you're going to probably see all the game has to offer in a few hours, that's just way too high. Price aside though, it is kind of hard to hate on the whole thing. I mean, it doesn't have some kind of political or social justice agenda, it's just a game about being attacked constantly by a bunch of brain-dead anime bimbos that want to jump the player's bones. As the fearless schoolboy, it's your job to put them into a state of euphoria like any God-fearing, red-blooded man should, in between taking upskirt photos on your mobile phone. About the only thing I think that legitimately annoys me is how every bit of voice acting in this game sounds, like I said before, like a cat being drowned or murdered with a buzzsaw. I mean, is this what Japanese girls sound like when they're excited? For existing VR owners though, Galgun VR could be a guilty pleasure, nothing more. It's not going to win anyone over or make them shell out their hard-earned dough to buy a headset, but if you're just kind of bored and looking for a way to spend a couple hours and your girlfriend's out of the house for the day, well, it might be worth checking out. Just understand that you're not getting that much bang for your buck.